One of the best things that I have done for my mental health since the start of the pandemic is being very, very selective with what media that I tend to digest. What I recommend for the majority of you watching this, that taking a social media break, or at very least a mainstream media break, will do you the world of good. You see, the news used to be a place where we went for information, we went for facts, we went to find out what was going on in the world. But if this pandemic has taught us anything, is that this isn't actually what the media is for. And the media often is very, very biased towards a certain agenda or towards financial backers. Looking at news broadcasters in America, it's surprising to find out that only 2 news broadcasters, I don't remember which ones off the top of my head, are backed by pharmaceutical companies, which will often very much want to push certain things from you, from medicines to vaccines, to shaming people that maybe don't agree with the mainstream view. I generally believe that in order to find truth, you need to take bits of information from both sides of the argument, understand the full picture, and come to your own conclusion. But this is very, very difficult through mainstream media. Now, don't get me wrong and make it out that I'm an anti-vaxxer. I'm very much not the case. I've had both of my jabs and I'm very, very glad for it. I want to make sure that I'm safe, I want to make sure that my partner is safe, and I want to make sure that everyone around me is safe. But you don't have to look very hard to realise that the data is selected to be pushing us towards these things. Now, I'm not going to speculate why people want to push towards a vaccine. Is it for a financial incentive for these companies? Is it for the greater good of everybody? Maybe it's a bit of both. But if you don't think profit is somewhat involved in this, you're unfortunately misguided. CNN recently came out with an article saying new research has found that being overweight, obese and inactive has a higher chance of having more severe COVID effects. This is something that if you follow any health and fitness professionals, or if you've followed me over the last 2 years, you would have seen this isn't new research. This is something that's been coming out since the start. How exercise, stress management, how good nutrition, how being in a healthy BMI and body weight range, how having good levels of vitamin D and sunlight will have a massive impact on fighting how severe you get this. But this has sort of been excluded until for mainstream media, or majority of mainstream media, until more recently during this pandemic, when people had been pushed against the vaccine. Now, if you want to get the vaccine, or if you don't want to get the vaccine, that is not up to me, and each to their own. But just be very, very careful of the information that you digest. We recently now have, got to a point where the majority of people that probably believe in the vaccine are going to get it. Yet at the same time, we're now finding information that this vaccination doesn't actually protect us from getting COVID, just protects us from getting it so severe. We can also still spread the virus despite being vaccinated. Now, while that doesn't necessarily take anything away from the vaccine, I certainly don't want to get a severe reaction, it does start to bring into question the lockdown measures in a lot of countries in the world, the mandated masks, the fact that we still can't go and see loved ones in hospitals or in hospices, the fact that we, in some countries we can't go to the cinema with friends and family, we're in small groups, despite there being in some countries very little COVID, in other countries a majority of herd immunity. Now, there may be more to it than I know. I am not claiming to be a medical expert by any stretch of the imagination, but either when you're looking at mainstream media, the message I want to put across here is either hunt out differences of opinion. Don't demonize and jump down the neck of someone that has a different opinion to yourself and a different viewpoint. Listen to them. Understand them. There's an element of truth in everything, and the answer falls somewhere in the middle. And if you're someone to this who feels trapped, scared, frustrated, angry at the way the world is, and feels that there is no respite, maybe it's time to take a little bit of a break from social media. I did this during the second lockdown here in Hong Kong, where I didn't watch any news stories. I didn't know what was going on with the world in COVID. I had a rough idea of what was happening in my local area, so I knew what I could do. But other than that, I got it out of my head. And I'll tell you what, I was so much happier from it. So if you're frustrated now at the way the world is, take a month off. The world's not going to change too much. I promise you. And if it does, you'll probably hear about it from your friends.